Hello, I am Rodney Hughes with Therapeutic Institute, and I would like to talk to you a little bit today about building a strong constitution. I think this is a very important subject given the time that we find ourselves in at the present moment, particularly being in the midst of this coronavirus pandemic. But not only that, the state of our political affairs here in our own land, but also globally as well. There is no better time to really think about how can we really build up our constitution? How can, as warriors, we can be stronger? We will be able to see more clearly and to be able to always be ready no matter what the situation that presents itself to us. So without any further ado, I want to actually read from Ephesians, the book of Ephesians, concerning putting on the full armor of God. And that is going to be taken from Ephesians chapter 6, verses 10 through 18. And I'm going to be, for the purposes of this video, speaking from the New International Version, or at least reading from the New International Version. So, the armor of God. Chapter 6, starting at verse 10. Finally, be strong in the Lord and in his mighty power. Put on the full armor of God so that you can take your stand against the devil's schemes. For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. Therefore, put on the full armor of God, so that when the day of evil comes, you may be able to stand your ground. Say that. Therefore, put on the full armor of God, so that when the day of evil comes, you may be able to stand your ground. And after you have done everything to stand, stand firm then, with the belt of truth buckled around your waist, with the breastplate of righteousness in place, and with your feet fitted with the readiness that comes from the gospel of peace. In addition to all of this, take up the shield of faith, with which you can extinguish all the flaming arrows of the evil one. Take the helmet of salvation and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of God. And finishing with verse 18, and pray in the Spirit on all occasions with all kinds of prayers and requests. With this in mind, be alert and always keep on praying for all the Lord's people. I start with this verse, this chapter in Ephesians, because I think it is a very appropriate verse, considering the time that we find ourselves in with this COVID-19, and also with a number of the bills that are being passed while we are diverted looking at COVID and concerned about those people who are dying, which we should be very concerned, but we should also be concerned about the living. And in doing so, we have to gird ourselves with the full armor of God. I don't know about you. I grew up in the South. I grew up in Louisiana. And my grandmother used to always say this, or talk about this idea of having a strong constitution. And I used to wonder, as a child, what she really meant by having a strong constitution. But as I grew up and became more of an adult and studied more of the word throughout life, understanding those patterns of the ups and downs that we go through in our daily lives and our yearly lives, and looking at those patterns and seeing a little bit better how God works and how actually the dynamicism of this universe works, because we are plugged into that dynamicism. And because of that, there is a finite way that we have to deal with certain things that that come into our path. And so today, I wanted to share with you a set of movements that I do. They are from the Tibetan Yoga, but these 4 movements are meant to build up your chakra system, which translates to your constitution. But not only does it build up your chakra system, it prepares you as a warrior of the light to be able to see more clearly, to be more grounded in your being, and to know that you have an enormous amount of light to pull upon in order to combat the kinds of fractionary things that are actually being imposed upon us now and into the near future. So without really any further ado, I would like to really just get into the 4 steps and show you how these 4 steps, when they're practiced on a daily basis, they can be used to strengthen your constitution, but also strengthen you as a warrior of the light, so that you will be able to combat any evil, any darkness, any negativity that comes your way. And as a matter of fact, when you practice these 4 movements on a daily basis, not only will they help you to combat the kinds of dark and negative things that might come into your field of perception or your field of being, it will also automatically back up those negative things, because essentially what you're doing from your solar plexus and your core and your 3rd eye throughout your chakra system, you're building up a shield, an auric shield around you. And so by building that auric shield, because we are beings that not only communicate in the physical realm, but we also communicate on things that we don't see and we can't necessarily feel, or we're maybe not always taught to feel. But once you've practiced, you'll be able to feel things on multiple levels in multiple dimensions. But what these 4 little simple Tibetan movements will do is that they will build up your shield. You will always be ready as a warrior, that no matter what comes into your path that would normally throw you off or get you a little anxious or cause anxiety or stress, those things will not happen as you begin to build up your constitution. And I'm going to let you get into that a little bit with these 4 steps, because I think they will help, because they've helped me a great deal in my life in terms of my warrior energy and being able to tap into that energy. It has saved me so many times. So without any further ado, I'm going to remove my yoga blocks to the side. And we're going to come to a neutral position. We're going to take a few deep breaths in. We're going to breathe fully in through the nose, filling up the abdominal cavity and the chest, holding for a few counts, and then exhaling through the nose. So let's go. As you notice, that one came through the mouth. But we want to concentrate really on doing the exhalation through the nose. Inhale through the nose, hold, exhale through the nose. So we're going to inhale through the nose, filling up the abdominal cavity all the way. Once the abdominal cavity is filled, we're going to hold that breath for a few seconds, and then we're going to exhale through the nose. So one more time, inhale, exhale. So a few deep breaths should be enough to get you centered and get your body focused on the next steps that we're about to go into. Okay, so I want you to come to a neutral position. We're starting off at neutral. The heels of the feet touching, hands and arms down by your side. Just for a few seconds, you want to hold this neutral position. And we're going to go from this neutral position, which will always come back to this neutral position as we move through the 4 movements of the Tibetan Yoga. You're going to just start here, neutral. Then you're going to go into the first movement. And before you go into the first movement, you're going to part the feet slightly, shoulder width apart. You're going to lift your arms up with your palms facing your head and both arms at 90-degree angles. You're going to hold this position for a number of seconds, maybe a minute or 2. Essentially, what this position does is that it is holding your force field between the hands, and it's powering you up. It's going to build up your force field. So this is movement number 1 in the Tibetan Yoga movements that I'm going to take you through. So you hold this position. Make sure that you're breathing in and out. Then we're going to come back to neutral position with your heels together again. This is the neutral position. We're going to, in just a few seconds, go into the second position, which is similar to a leapfrog. You're going to part your legs, bend down, put both elbows inside of your legs, and you're going to be on your toes. And you're going to hold this position for a number of seconds. Don't forget to breathe in and breathe out. After a few breaths, you will start to feel the heat build up in your head. you will also start to feel your inner core tightening, and you will feel that your aura is beginning to sparkle. And what I mean by sparkling, you'll be able to hear this kind of high-pitched tingling above your head. That's when you know that you're being powered up and you're beginning to build up your constitution. We're going to go back to neutral position before we go into the third movement. So far we've done 2 movements, and we're back to neutral, and we're going to be preparing for the third movement. And the third movement is a plank. So you follow me, turn, you're going to drop down into a plank with your head slightly up, looking forward. And you're going to hold this position for a few minutes. For those of you whose arms may not be as strong, there is a modified version that we can do. You just bring the knees to the floor, assume the same upright position, plank with the arms straight out, but we're just modifying by bending the knees. As for me, my upper body is pretty strong, so I will hold the full plank. You hold this for a few seconds, breathing in and breathing out. Breathing in and breathing out. And then we're going to bring our foot forward so that we can stand up straight again and come back to the front into our neutral position. You want to stand in neutral position for a few minutes just to recenter your body before we move into the fourth and final movement. On the fourth and final movement, we want to bring the feet chest width apart, and you're going to raise the arms, and you stretch each arm out to the wall, and you continue to stretch and open up that chest cavity. And as you stretch out, you want to relax your shoulders down and breathe in. And as you're stretching, what you'll notice, you're stretching out to the walls. Your body will begin to lean back so that the core of your abdominal opens itself up to become a straight cord back into the universal energy. So when you know that your body is starting to slightly lean back, I'm going to get on the side to give you an idea of what this looks like. So your body will begin to lean back like this slightly. And in doing that, from here, you're able to reconnect your core to universal energy. So the final step, from neutral, you step out, chest width apart, your feet, and you're going to go raise your arms. And as you raise your arms, you're stretching out into each of the walls as if you're trying to touch each wall. And then your body will lean back. And in that lean, that is how you are reconnecting back to universal energy. And then you come back to neutral. I'm going to do now, we're going to move quickly through the 4 steps. I'm not going to do as much talking as I move through them this time. It's just going to be flawless and move from one step to the next without a lot of in-between conversation. So, make sure you're looking straight forward. Back to neutral. Don't forget to breathe in and out. Second movement. Up on your toes, looking straight ahead. Hands clasped together in prayer. Move back into neutral position. Continue to take deep breaths. You might find that your body rocks back and forth a little bit. And essentially what your body is trying to do when it's doing that is to regain its center and reconnect with divine energy, to reconnect your divine energy with universe, with the universal energy. So sometimes it will move kind of in a counterclockwise, clockwise circle just until it finds its perfect balance. And when the rocking and swaying stops, then you know that you have been realigned with universal energy. You've been realigned with your own divinity. So important that we understand our own divinity, because in order to understand the greater divinity, you must understand first that you are divine. Okay, we're going to move into the third position, which is a plank. Hold your head up. Look forward, straight ahead. Don't forget to breathe in and out. For those of you whose arms may not be as strong It's okay to bend the knees as a modified version of this plank. Bring the leg forward to balance yourself so that you can rise back up. Come to front and center. Back to neutral position. We're going to get ready to move into the final position. Move the feet slightly apart, slightly chest width apart. And stretch the arms out with the shoulders relaxed. And keep stretching those arms out and touch the wall. Keep stretching, keep stretching, keep stretching, keep stretching. And breathing. Very important that you breathe. Take in life force, release life force. Take in life force, releasing life force. Life for life. Regaining your center. Come back to the neutral position. You should be beginning to see how this very simple 4-step exercise begins to build up your constitution. It begins to put a light armor around you, which is so necessary in the time that we're living in right now. As a final set, going into the third set, I'm going to do very quickly the 4 movements. I recommend that you do this daily, but at least do a round of 3 each day if you can make it through a round of 3. Do many more if you feel that once you continue to do this continuously, what you will find out is that you'll be able to hear your body, your mind, your heart, your spirit speak more clearly to you, and it will tell you just how many rounds that you might need. And then you just follow that natural flow. That flow is, getting in touch with that flow is very important, because the more you're in touch with that flow, the stronger your spiritual constitution is. And the stronger your spiritual constitution is, no matter what rose in your way, whether it be COVID-19, whether it be anything that might cause stress or anxiety in your life, what essentially you're doing, you're building yourself up in a way that whatever happens, you're able to weather those storms. You're actually shielding yourself. I like to think of these 4 movements as warrior movements. Because what they do is that they build up the warrior in you. It makes you always ready for any situation that you are confronted with. So we're going to move very quickly into the last set of the 4 Tibetan movements that I use on a regular basis to build up my constitution, to center me, to bring my third eye more into focus. And what it does is it heightens my senses so I can smell, see, sense negativity coming from miles away. And I know immediately in each of those situations what I need to do, if I need to remove myself from that position, if I need to say something that will disperse that negativity, or whatever it is that I need to do. Do I need to cleanse my space with sage? What happens is that essentially when you begin to build up your warriors and build up your constitution, essentially what you're doing, you're opening yourself up to really hear the universe speak to you. You are building yourself up so that you're able to connect more directly with God and have God lead you in the way that you would need to go. God will actually order your feet, will order your steps. I guess a lot of people might wonder, for someone who seems to be connected from a Christian perspective, why would I be doing a Tibetan movements to build up my warriors? Well, by doing the Tibetan movements, it in no way diminishes Christian methods of doing so. There are definitely Christian methods of doing the same thing, and maybe in another video we can talk more about that. But as the time that I spent in the seminary, earning my master's degree in theology, my concentration was in interreligious engagement. And what interreligious engagement gave to me and taught to me, the research done around that, is that all spiritual systems are connected. No matter what your minister might tell you at church, no matter what your Buddhist leader might tell you at the ashram, all spiritual force comes from the same well. All spiritual force comes from the same well. There are different expressions, there are different cultural expressions, but once you understand the rudimentary rules of spirituality, it does not really matter what faith or tradition you practice. Basically, your faith and tradition will be based upon culturally who you are and who your people are culturally. But in terms of connecting with your own divinity, first recognizing that you are divine and that you have a divine inheritance, and that divine inheritance is knowing that you are divinity, and that once you know that you are divinity, you are then allowed to connect with greater divinity and to understand as much as we can in the humanly body and in the flesh, in the representation of the flesh or the third dimensional body. You will be able to connect with God directly. And what these four movements do, it allows you to seamlessly do that. One of the things that I also do, like I can expound upon in another video, in terms of my Christian background, because I grew up in the Christian church. I was raised a Baptist, but I have studied mostly all faith religions around the globe. And I am always concerned with connecting the dots and seeing how they all connect. And they all do connect in that you are divine, you are connecting with divinity, and there are all different methods of doing that. So that is how, as a Christian, I can still use Tibetan movements to enhance and strengthen my being. And like I said, we'll talk more about other Christian ways that you can do that in other videos. But if you like this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to Institute Therapeutae. Like and subscribe. And we're going to move now very quickly into the last round of the four movements. Coming to neutral stance. Hands and arms fully extended by your side. Looking forward, breathing in and out. First movement, feet width slightly apart, arms up in a 45-degree angle with palms facing your head. Back to neutral. Feet together at the heels. Hands down by your side. We're going to move into the second position. Feet apart, legs apart, arms inside your legs in prayer position and on your toes, your heels up off the ground, looking forward. We're going to hold this position for a few seconds or moments or minutes, whatever's comfortable for you. Palms on the floor, push up, coming back to neutral position, legs together, arms straight down by your side. Don't forget to breathe in and out. Third position, we're going to go into the plank position. Turn to your side, drop down, and into a plank. Feet back, straight back legs. Head slightly forward, looking forward, breathing in and out. Bring foot forward to balance yourself. Push up. Come to front and center. And we're going to go back to our neutral stance. Take a couple of rounds of breath as we're going to, in just a second, as we're going to, in just a moment, move into our final Tibetan pose. Stretch the arms. Stretch the arms out, 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 out. Continue to stretch the arms out as if you're touching the walls. It opens up your chest cavity, your heart chakra, and your throat, which deals with will. We're going to come back to neutral. And that ends 3 rounds of our Tibetan movements that are meant to build up the constitution. I'm going to bring back my blocks so that I can get in the meditation position. And we're going to end this session with 3 ohms. But first, I'd like to just talk to you a little bit before I end. I cannot impress upon you how important it is to have a practice in your life that is on a daily basis building your constitution. A strong constitution is very, very important when we walk out into the world and we experience the world. in its blessedness, in its joy, but also in its low points and in its darkness, and more in its darkness, because what these four movements do is that they build you up so that you are able to fight the forces of darkness, to resist negativity. It just essentially is putting on the full armor of God and allowing your being to come into its fullest potential. So having modality like this in your life is very important, very essential, and I cannot express that enough. It has helped me so much over the years be able to be ready when any situation confronts me. And really, that's it. I'm just glad that I was able to share these movements with you. And now we're going to move into a time of meditation and prayer. So bring your palms together in front of you with your elbows slightly lifted. You're going to take deep breath in to the abdomen, and you're going to do the Om chant along with me. Namaste. You can also end this session with silent prayer and meditation. Whatever closing ritual that you decide to do one that feels comfortable and safe for you. Thank you for tuning in to Institute Therapeutae. I am Rodney Hughes, and it was a pleasure to offer and to explain and to share with you a modality that has worked for me throughout the years. Be blessed, walk in peace, but as warriors of light, always be ready for anything that cross your path. Namaste.